Well, the Cape Town Mayor, Patricia de Lille, has spoken to the SABC about the so-called recall clause, saying it's just another attempt to get rid of her.
It's no secret that there are some individuals in the party that are very determined to get rid of me. And to the extent now that we've seen what is now dubbed the de Lille clause to amend the Constitution to achieve that. I've always just asked for a fair process, that all of these untested allegations against me that is being in the public domain, that it be tested in an open hearing with the media, with the public present, and I will continue to push for that.
Well, for more on the story, we cross now to political analyst Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who joins us from our Durban studios. A very good evening to you, Prof. Thanks for your time. Of course, it's no secret that the DA has been struggling to fire Mayor Patricia de Lille. Is this amendment exactly what it needs to get rid of her?
Well, I do think that it will make their work rather easy, but at the same time, the political battle might continue longer than even her expulsion. It's the manner of how they manage her exit which will determine whether by the time they have to focus on campaigning for elections, they may have the de Lille factor coming back to bite them.
Prof, you have, for example, the DA leader, Mmusi Maimane, saying that while this clause is applicable immediately, but it was not retrospective and would apply only to new cases in future. So could this apply, given that de Lille, in tweets that we've seen earlier, she's still not prepared to keep quiet? So while the past transgressions, according to the DA, may not apply, she certainly looks like she's not going to keep quiet about what's happening within the Democratic Alliance.
I do think that technically they say it may not apply retroactively, but in reality is the fact that down the line in this public spat, they might say the caucus or the leadership has sanctioned members not to speak in public, and Patricia may continue rebutting their claims, and on the basis of that, she might be taken out.
Prof, given that we have these sentiments now shared by de Lille, as I earlier mentioned in her tweets on the so-called recall clause, could we perhaps see another motion of no confidence in her, this time through the federal executive? Because now you've got this recall clause where they can simply say, we've lost all confidence in you and we want you to simply resign.
I do think that it would be prudent for the DA to allow a process of exposing the corruption they say it is there, rather than to use other political means to actually exit her, because she may then say legitimately so that this was a political witch hunt and the interest was not on exposing the allegations which are being made. Should that be the case, I do think that they may have a lot more complex problem, which may even impact on the constituencies, such as the former ID members who joined the DA.
Precisely, I'd like to go to, given the fact that we're not too far away from the election next year, what kind of effect would this have, given that de Lille does enjoy some support within the Democratic Alliance, and perhaps given the fact that this clause has now been included, that rightfully, as you say, she could argue that she was forcefully pushed out and that the DA went to the extent of putting in a clause that would ensure that she is out?
I do think that it may actually be very important for the DA to handle this process carefully, because it is not just the DA inside, de Lille inside the DA, but given the fact that de Lille is a high-profile figure, even if she left the DA tomorrow, she'll still have a political life, she'll have access to the public spaces and the media. And therefore, she could do even more damage. We have seen with some of the leaders leaving major parties and continuing to do the damage, whether they form other parties or they join existing parties, the damage would be done. And secondly, that she's talking about what is dubbed as the Delil clause. Very carefully remember that there was a Sobukwe clause in the 60s, and that connotation and connection, if it settles in the public mind to say you design a clause for a particular individual, it might actually be a stigma that they may not want to have.
Well, Professor Somadoda Fikeni joining us live from our studios in Durban. And thank you very much for joining us, certainly sharing some light on some of the developments on that last day of the DA Congress.